Hello and welcome to GamesHUB, a crypto talk show with our investors, partners, and remarkable personalities. I'm Constantin Kogan, co-founder of GamesPad. We're excited to welcome a very special guest today. Then I will ask, this is Karen Reddy, but the full name is Kirubakaran, so I hope I didn't butcher it. He's a co-founder and CB at brahmGAN, DGen AI Network, and Venture Builder and Investor at AlphablockZ Ventures. Today, we're going to be discussing the exciting topic of 3D generative AI in the Metaverse. So really excited to have you here. Hi, Karen. Welcome to GamesHUB.
Yeah, nice to be here actually. So thanks for the invite from GamesPad, and glad to share a screen with Constantine. So nice to be here, guys.
Yeah, we're happy to have you here, and obviously it's a very hot topic. Everybody's talking about AI and especially generative AI. So let's get to it. First of all, maybe really briefly tell us about your background and how did you get into this field and the confluence between blockchain and AI.
Yeah, so I started as a venture builder in the space, trying to help founders build Web3 companies. Then I saw a space where there could be a really good there could be a really problem solving. So then we thought of the metaverse field, because there was a lot of metaverses projects coming up, but that lacks different aspects of it. So then we thought of combining the generative AI and helping supporting the metaverses and games angle actually. So that is how getting got into this AI and metaverse space actually. So through brahmGAN. So yeah, that's brief about it.
Got it. So can you explain to our audience what 3D generative AI and metaverse are and how do they complement each other?
So the generative AI in general, I think there are a lot of generative AIs out there now. I think everybody knows about Midjourney or DALI, so which is text to 2D generative AIs, which was actually started by OpenAI and other people. So, but whereas in the next internet will be powered by a 3D, right? So that is a metaverse. So right now there are 2D metaverses, but obviously the next generation internet will be 3D. So that is where the metaverse come into picture. But generative AI, 3D generative AI is actually a niche area where not many people are working on it. But why that is important? Because it's going to power the metaverse industry going forward. So because metaverse needs to have more creative for their users. They need to get to generate their own spaces. They can have their own spaces of their own metaverses in the future in the internet. So that's how the metaverse and 3D generative AI are correlated, because it has to go hand in hand to build the next generation 3D internet.
Yes, for sure. According to the poll conducted by a news site recently, 60% of respondents indicated that, unfamiliarity with the metaverse and a higher percentage expressing fear rather than excitement, right? I think right now with everything happening with AI, where you've probably seen Sam Altman basically asking to be regulated, to create some kind of a regulatory body to even try to create a framework how we can work together. So my question to you is, how can we educate and inspire individuals about the transformative power of the metaverse through the innovative capabilities of technologies like DGen AI network?
So that's a nice question actually, because even as you mentioned, Sam Altman, who is a creator of the one of the powerful AI in the planet. So I was mentioning about there is always a centralization of these bigger AI models is threat. So yeah, but again, that is the reason we are coming up with this DGen AI network, which is decentralized generative AI. So instead of which is centralized, so that is the reason we wanted to do something like decentralizing the generative AI part. But since there is already a image to text to image kind of a generative AI is out there, which is centralized. The DGen AI network wants to create 3D, image to 3D or video to 3D or text to 3D. So right now we are already developed video to 3D product, so which is already out there. So how this can help? Take an example. If anybody who has a smartphone can take a video of their favorite food or their favorite bike or a car, and they can bring it inside a metaverse. So and then they can showcase it in the public. So this is like more of personalizing their metaverse space. Right now, why the Web2 social media is famous, like Meta, Facebook, or like other places are famous because they are creating their personalized spaces. So similar way, the metaverses could also be the users can be educated that you can also personalize your metaverse, or you can also personalize your metaverse spaces using generative AI tech. So that is where we are coming across so the tech video to 3D or even text to 3D or image to 3D. So we can even build a layer on top of a mid journey or a DALI output. So on top of it, like you can say, whatever the image is coming out of a mid journey or a DALI, and we take that images and convert it into a 3D model, right? So that is also one of our product in the roadmap. So like this, if you're able to give a users a personalization, they would be in a position to take the metaverse into a next level. More users will come to metaverse because they can personalize their spaces. They can they can do a lot of creative spaces and creations inside the metaverse. So that is what I feel like we should educate about. Yeah.
So, it's like with this and amazing capabilities, we also should talk a little bit about the risk, right? Because basically, as you mentioned, right, you can take any object, and transfer this object into the metaverse. So now imagine if it's an open world. So basically, there is no initial censorship, right? This same exact narrative as we see in social media, where people unfortunately misuse the technology and create some disturbing videos, right? And that can impact especially minors or just kids, with something that they should not be seeing. Let's put it this way, right? And now not only they can see, they can actually virtually participate in a process of doing something they should not be doing, for example, right? So the question is, how do you see the generative AI contribute to the creation of unpredictable assets or in the metaverse, in the virtual worlds, and how they're enhancing the immersive experiences for users, but at the same time not making them feel that they're not supposed to see something they're out there?
Yeah, so yeah, that's a nice angle to think actually. So yeah, definitely, there are when there is something good happening. So even the creator is thinking like, okay, if you give this kind of power to people, so people could actually come. There are more people can actually walk into metaverses, and the metaverses can boom. But again, on the other side of thing could be yeah, maybe this adult industry could use this as a separate thing. As but you are saying about if it is an open forum where miners could expose to this, or they could use this to in a different way, but that could be tackled through again the artificial intelligence can actually do, or the metaverses, or even in the community. If you say the web3 has a community, and even if you say the blockchain space, which could also have a community as a validators for the spaces or videos whichever put up in these kind of open spaces. So which could be if it is marked as a spam, or unviewable content, or maybe a sort of an adult content, so which could be marked, and then which cannot be shown to a kind of underage people who might use the metaverse as well. But again, even based on the applications who are going to use, say for example, Sandbox is using this particular tech, and as you rightly say, somebody can post something in the Sandbox which is not acceptable. But we could also filter out through the image recognitions and other stuff, and say the AI could also filter out and say like, it cannot be posted, it looks like this kind of a content and stuff like that. So the tech is matured enough to like identify also, and or even like we could have one more layer of filter where like where the community who are acting as a validators in the metaverse, or the validator for content creators, like who's already a top content creator in the metaverse, could also be like kind of verifying the contents posted in the metaverse, something like that. So I think that is possible on the blockchain, because it is that is a good about the decentralization as well as on blockchain. If you are able to like verify, and then like you can even downgrade the users, the earning potential in the metaverse, if they post something in different angle. So that is also another thing possible when we are using meta blockchain as a base.
Interesting. Yeah, there's more to obviously to unpack here, but we'll keep it, on this. Now, another thing which I wanted to ask you is, you're also co-founder as brahmGAN, right? So, could you please elaborate maybe on the innovative methods and strategies your team is employing, like to achieve this 100x increase in speed, right? While basically like we're improving the gaming metaverse and basically 3D experience in the UGC development with some of the generative AI tools that you're applying, right? So can you help us to see how that works?
Yeah. So we are using actually first product we have made it live is a video to 3D product. So which is so anybody can take a video in their smartphone and could convert that into a 3D model, which can be used inside a metaverse or a game. So that means we need to actually have a mesh level output, right, for the models which are created, because the model needs to be imported inside any of the gaming softwares, like like you can say like Blender or like Unreal Engine or Unity, right? But
Now, just for someone, sorry to interrupt you, for someone who's not technical, maybe elaborate a little bit what is mesh network?
yeah, so to use any 3D objects in a game or a metaverse, uh, that object needs to be editable. The poly counts, because certain if your game is on the mobile, maybe the quality of the game, right? Double A game or triple A game. So which means like the quality of the game, which is like managed because of these poly counts of the model, like the 3D model. So that mesh level output we need to produce. So we have cracked using two different kind of technologies. We have a proprietary in-house algorithms to create this texture editing plus mesh level outputs on the models, which we use on top of something called nerf. There is a tech called nerf, which is near radiance field. So which is the next step of photogrammetry tech. There is a tech called photogrammetry. So it's the next level of photogrammetry actually. So this is that's one thing we are using. On top of it, we are having our own AI models to train those uh, the inputs which we receive from the nerf near radiance fields, and then like train the models to create a 3D model, and then like which can be used in the metaverses directly. So that's how we are trained to like foster the process of building spaces. If the metaverse wants to become 100x faster, so developer cannot build each and every block of the metaverse, right? So the users has to build their own spaces. User has to build, like maybe you can only give them so that's what we are creating a network as well, DGNA network, where if a metaverse is actually wanted to keep increasing their space, they can become a 100,000 square kilometer space or even bigger than that. But the user needs to build the space. How does the shop will look like? Even what is a metaverse? It's a resemblance of a new, like the actual world. So actual world is built
Yeah.
right from shops, temples, this, that, and all those things. So like churches or temples and other stuff. So this is how the metaverse needs to be built by people. So people can come and build their own spaces, and they can take their car and stuff and bring it inside. They can take their living room and then bring it inside. So that's how it's get built actually. Even the shopkeeper or shop can bring their shop inside the metaverse and say that this is my metaverse shop. So this could really scale when we have this kind of a generative AI tech, which could actually help them faster this 3D model generation, which is difficult to do it with every time reaching out to somebody wants to reach out to the developer and say that I want to build a shop. Then the developer will take 3 months time to build a shop and stuff like that. So that's how it's reducing the time. The tech is reducing the time by 100x because it's give them a direct access to what they want to create in the metaverse. So yeah.
Makes sense. I know, I understand that, and I really thank you for the answers. Right, I think we should go to the questions from the audience. We already have a bunch, so I'll just go and direct them to you. Let's try to answer as much as possible as we can.
Yeah.
There are some interesting ones. So Elisa from YouTube is asking, today's AMD CTO announced they will use generative AI to speed up chip design. Do you think we're mature enough to rely more on it for manufacturing silicon?
So see, I feel like even now there is a one model. That means like Chat GPT is a one model actually. Like it's a one AI model. But even Chat GPT is right now is coming up with something called multi-model AI actually. So that means it could actually create a models on top of a model, right? So one model might be trained to specialize in a one specific area, and the other model could be like adding up with the help of that particular model. So like this, based on that, even the future, like people are coming up right now, even using the Chat GPT. People are coming up with Auto GPT. So Auto GPT is nothing but is a multi-model agents. Like you can create your own agents which could actually trade a cryptocurrency for you. It could actually do a multiple business for you. Even it can go and launch a content writing business in Fiverr or Upwork. So I think AI models are getting more, and again, like semiconductor industry uh, is a it's like having a history of more than 100 years. So there is a large amount of data which you can feed it into the AI, and the AI could learn very well because it's not a new field. It could have a large amount of data already. So the AI can I feel that the AI can easily study all of these the 100 years of history of research and stuff like that, and then come up with innovative approaches which could also fasten up the semiconductor industry's research much more right now from a one semiconductor maybe an i5 from an Intel to an i7, it took almost 1 year or 2 years to develop. But maybe use of an AI tech, maybe every 6 months, the companies might come up with the advanced chip. That is also possible. I feel like, in my opinion, yeah.
For sure. I mean, listen, we're talking about like big monolithic integrated circuits, which are becoming more sophisticated. They can process more data points. They're more efficient because they become smaller, but more like, they have more electronic components, like, and basically they process more information. I mean, we've seen even an example, if you want to know about this, they read about the recent NVIDIA success. They're like booming. That's one of the hottest stock on the market right now. Why? Because all of a sudden with the AI advance, people need computational power. And the semiconductor business, as you mentioned, is going to be very much correlated with this hype. So yes, I agree with you. And there's another question more closer to generative AI. Nakamoto-san from YouTube is asking, can you explain what 3D generative AI is and how it contributes to creating new realities in the metaverse? You replied, but then the second question is, I think similar, is Nebula Wonder, that what are some practical applications of 3D generative AI in the metaverse and how do they enhance user experience? So maybe you can talk about like something that you already implemented.
Yeah. So I think, so as I mentioned, right, so a lot of people wanted to create something by themselves. So, but Metaverse lacks that nowadays because Metaverse right now depends on the developers to make everything for the users. So when the users coming inside Metaverse, they'll only see the space and they'll just walk away and walk around and then just they will move on. So we have to make the people spend time in the metaverses by giving them an option to create. So that is what the 3D generative AI is helping. right now to do for metaverses. So, which is allowing users to create, in which in turn makes the people spend more time on the metaverses. Plus, it is personalizing their user experience. Like, when you say that, like, I wanted to personalize my space with my art, I'm liking this kind of an art. I can take that particular video and bring it inside the metaverse. So you feel like more be in the space, right? Like how you are be in your house. You are happy to be in your house because you design your own space. So similar way, like if you're able to give this power to the users, the metaverse user experience will enhance multifold, because like the users needs to be there in the space because they like it, because they created it, right? So and they wanted to share it to their people and other stuff, because obviously that's a human tendency of, like if you have something, you wanted to share it to the world, and you wanted to get the people to see what you built and stuff like that. So that's how I think the traction will go, and that is where the 3D generative AI plays a bigger role in, like bringing this to the metaverse industry actually. Yeah. Not only that, even a gaming, like personalizing the gaming experiences. Like primarily, if you talk about user generated content, that's very important in gaming as well. Like the games like Fortnite or other games are, like doing this, becoming $1 billion games itself. Like, yeah, which is key is the user generated content that needs to be brought inside metaverses as well.
Do you have any, so Robbie Spear from YouTube is asking, like, similar question. Can you share any notable examples or project that 3D generative AI has been used successfully to create immersive experiences in the metaverse? Maybe one or two example, not necessarily that you helped, but that you know of.
So for the Web3 space, not sure, but I think because the space itself is
Let's take
coming up right now. So like if you say 2D generative AI becomes a very popular, and a lot of people are trying to build using Midjourney or a DALI outputs, and trying to bring isometric views of that to use in the games. So like a lot of projects trying to use it. Even Sandbox tried one of the image based like generative AI tech inside there, like Sandbox. But again, like it's very like niche right now. Like very handful of people across the globe is actually building 3D generative AI. So like so it will be like and right now 3D generative AI is more into a e-commerce industry, because right now you have 2D e-commerce marketplaces. Like you have images in the Amazon, but now even Amazon is thinking of having a 3D e-commerce marketplaces. Like it's become a 3D. So that is where the 3D generative AI is coming into picture nowadays, because the e-commerce industry is trying to use that in a big way, or even the real estate industry, which is actually, say for example, you wanted to sell your luxury flat in apartment in Dubai to somebody in Russia, but you wanted to give them the feel of the real life the apartment looks like. So it can create a digital twin. So the 3D generative AI can create a exact resemblance of a digital twin of an apartment, and that can enhance the selling experience of the high-end real estate, like luxury real estate properties and stuff like that. There are few companies using in that angle as well. The luxury real estate and something. But again, gaming and metaverses, not many people, like we are also trying to do a pilot with Sandbox with this 3D generative AI, so that, like we could, if that's successful, I think Sandbox would be the first one to like use something like 3D generative AI in the space.
Got it. Yeah, no, I think you're right. Real estate is a big example. It's already happening across the world. Like in the United States, it's already very popular, like, to showcase an apartment, and you have a 3D walk already inside the room, so that you don't waste time. You don't need to go, when you search an apartment, you don't need to go and visit like 10 apartments. You can sit in your home, already have a look and feel, even to a degree that they simulate how it will feel, like that the view from your window, which is very important for a person who's like, just like trying to understand the full scope of what to expect from the apartment or any
Yes.
property. So
Yeah.
yes, it's a good example. Now, The other question is James Blake from LinkedIn is asking, what ethical considerations should be taken into account when utilizing 3D generative AI in the metaverse, and how can we ensure inclusivity and fairness?
Yes, I think you asked the kind of the same question, like, where how we can ensure it. But yeah, so I think uh, yes, so I think the users, even nowadays, people are using even the other web two platforms like Facebook and other stuff. Still, like, some people are using it for good purposes, and obviously the other people still keep utilizing for other things as well. But yeah, so but again here, uh, like if you say unethical things is very rare to happen, but maybe like kind of what you mentioned as an unwanted content generation, maybe like is a one angle. That's a challenge also for any of the industry as well. Even web to Facebook or anybody is facing that. Even Twitter, all these people are facing that thing. But again, with the community power, it can be like eliminated. And if it is a web two could do that, and web three with a massive community, I think it should be much faster to do that. So that is one approach. Yeah.
I think, yeah, the fear is here. Like, we're facing right now an incredible power of, not only like before it was be able to like, let's say, fake the voice of a person, right? Which was popular for the scammers who were doing this either phishing scams or calling people and representing as if they're part of the company or a relative, right? Now imagine you can do a video call. I don't know if you've seen this crazy example of Jerome Powell got
Yeah,
scammed
yeah,
by Russian pranksters who like basically impersonated President Zelensky like with a video camera and his voice, and actually an official delegation calling him, and he actually took the bait. He
yeah,
actually had a call with them. Now imagine we're talking about the chairman of Federal Reserve, one of the most powerful organizations on the planet Earth, and he was not prepared for this. Now imagine a senior citizen who already happened already in US. We have a lot of cases where they get call from sometimes even a video call from a
mm,
relative and saying, "Oh my God, I'm injured or something happened. Please send me money." Right.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So that's what we're talking about,
yeah.
and that can go beyond that when people interact on a multiple level in metaverses. They create worlds together. They come closer. They actually, they become friends. So how do we make sure that those things can protect the people who are not ready for this, like who don't, they will not have a choice to differentiate what's good, what's bad.
Yeah, so that is that. I think the deep fake industry also it become popular after the generative AI or after the AI gets popular. Uh, so maybe like so even I heard recently that one of the companies actually making a software or a thing that like you can actually put the link of the video and check that whether it is created by deepfake AI or other any other tech, so which can show you that like it is done by as a deepfake tech, or like it could be like it is a real one, right? So like I think like something like how you had a kind of like antivirus for like malware and all those stuff. I think like I think there is a time where people have to like see that like that there is whether it is done as a deep fake or like is it like kind of used any kind of an AI product to generate this particular video or not. So that so could be like one of the ways. I think people are already building that. But I think yeah. So as a user of Web3, like internet, we should be aware of. We should be in a position to start differentiating, like which is fake and which is not fake. So maybe there could be some tools which might get famous in this angle as well, like whether it is done with a deep fake or not, to identify that, or yeah. So or it needs to be when go through a trusted sources and stuff like that. But yeah, so this
Mm-hmm.
is like one way I think we could stop the scammers or like using the AI technology to do some kind of a deep fake stuff, right? So that is the only
Yes,
possible way I feel, because since the tech has a, you can say, a lot of merits, but as well as it has a lot of, it might bring, like, a lot of people use us, like, even if you take an example of Bitcoin is one of the very good tech, Bitcoin network, but there are people using it for you know other illegal activities as well, right? So
for
there is
sure.
always, good and bad, and God and evil, like, so we'll have to see how
Uh,
how it can be differentiated. Yeah.
100%. I agree with that. That's a good example because any technology can be used for good. It's like nuclear power, right? You can use it
Yeah.
to supply energy to a lot of cities, right? Or you can use it for a weapon of mass destruction, right? So
Yeah.
that's up to us
Yeah.
how we as a community, how we as a people who are forward thinking and trying to build something secure, we will take into account those
Yeah.
risks and
Yeah.
basically try to develop also the counter measures to make sure that people are protected and they safely can do, as you mentioned, they can create the world to benefit them, to be something exciting that will be personalized
Yeah.
and great.
Yeah,
um
maybe like,
I
if
we can
Facebook, yeah, if somebody is
yeah.
posting a video in a Facebook, maybe Facebook should come forward and say that, okay, it is done by a deepfake tech. They should put it below, like they're always putting a sponsored ad. They should also put it that this video is created by a deepfake tech or something if somebody is
They're
posting.
already doing that.
Yeah,
By
yeah,
the way, if you notice, they're already doing that. There's several big startups that were funded by, but not only Facebook, but a lot of Silicon
yeah,
Valley VCs and projects. They do the verification, false information. It's
yeah,
not perfect yet.
yeah,
Sometimes it has glitches,
yes,
but it already has at least a marker that
yeah,
potentially this information is disturbing,
yes,
or it has false narrative, right?
yeah, yeah.
So it already exists, and with
There is a
generative AI,
models
you just
again on that, NLP models, language models, which
yes,
does that. Yeah,
and the trick is the generative AI is a bit more complex because it can replicate so many variations, right, of something that you can never compare, because the way those NLP models work, they compare the majority of the data outputs in the web existing with what
yeah,
would present it. By
yeah,
comparing, they differentiate whether it's probability if it's right or not. With 3D unique assets, there will be nothing to compare. There are two assets that are completely new, and
yeah,
how it's going to be much more complex. But it's a deep topic. I'm happy that we live this interview on in a very intriguing part,
yeah,
right? Because that will give us a chance to maybe collaborate more and investigate more.
yeah.
Thank you so much, Karan, for your answers, for sharing your wisdom. And we definitely want to see you more and want to work with you. Thank you, everyone, for joining GamesHUB today. We're going to see you, 2 weeks at around 4 p.m. UTC and 12 p.m. EST on YouTube Live, Twitter Live, LinkedIn Live, and all the other lives. And really excited to hear your questions. And please write us questions. If you have more on this topic, we'll just share all the links of Karan, and I'm sure he will be excited to follow up just
Yeah,
online.
yeah. So nice to be here. So thanks a lot for hosting me. So like, thanks for GameSpot and Constantine. So love to be in touch and share, like, any of the information is interesting for users. Would always be there to, like, support.
Yes, thank you so much, Karan. Have a good one.
You. Thank you. Bye, guys.